If you feel like you've been spending a lot of time trying to figure out what your next best move is, but you are frustrated by the fact that you haven't actually taken many steps towards making that change, this episode is for you because I'm going to be sharing why action isn't the issue. And in fact, your default thinking is the real reason why you're not making the progress that you want to make. And this is an area that so many professionals overlook, and I'm excited to dig in today. So without further ado, go and grab your notebook, grab a pen, and let's dive in. Welcome to the Career Changemaker podcast. Do you want clear direction about your next chapter, but find yourself overthinking every move and worrying about getting it wrong? If so, you're in the right place. Hey, I'm Janine Esbrand, corporate lawyer turned career coach, keynote speaker, and mother of two. And I've discovered how to gain real career clarity and build an impactful career on my terms without sacrificing security or burning out. If you're ready for aligned career options, confident decisions, and work that protects your peace, close that comparison tab on LinkedIn, grab your notebook, and let's dive in. I want to take a moment to talk to you about the Career Navigator coaching program. This is my high-touch, one-to-one coaching program that provides a proven, structured, step-by-step playbook for building a career that is aligned to where you are in your life right now. A career that's going to give you the impact and the income and the influence that you desire. If you want to learn more, head over to careerchangemakers.com/career clarity and book a call with me. And on that call, we will explore where you are now, where you're trying to get to, and how the program may be able to help you get there. So head over to careerchangemakers.com/career clarity, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. A few years ago, I was sitting on my couch with my husband watching a range of individuals stand up and deliver TEDx talks. And as I was watching these people confidently deliver these short, impactful messages, I was so inspired. And I remember turning to my husband in kind of a whisper and saying, I would love to do that one day. And his response to me without any delay was, well, why couldn't you? And that question got me thinking because deep down, I didn't really think it was possible for me. I didn't think I was the type of person who could do a TEDx talk. Yes, I was educated. Yes, I was a qualified lawyer. But this type of platform was for more inspiring people, for people that had a bigger message. So when he asked me, why couldn't you? All of these thoughts around the reasons why I wasn't qualified and I couldn't do it rose to the surface. And what I realized was the reasons I was giving myself and telling myself were really just thoughts that I had. There wasn't any evidence to support what it was that I was saying because I had never actually looked into what it would take to do a TEDx talk. I had never actually applied. I'd never actually spoken to anyone who'd done a TEDx talk. So the thoughts that I had around whether it was possible for me were really based on my own assumptions that were influenced by previous experiences. So I decided to challenge the thought that doing a TEDx talk wasn't for me. And I went about getting some insight and some data by researching. So I researched, what does it actually take to do a TEDx talk? I realized that TEDx events were run locally by various different event organizers. I realized that I could actually reach out to people and ask whether I could pitch to be a TEDx speaker. And so that's what I ended up doing. I ended up finding where the events were. I ended up researching what the process of application was for different places. I ended up sharing more openly with friends and colleagues that was one of my goals. And ultimately, I was introduced to TEDx Woking by a friend who knew the organizers of an event. And then I was invited to pitch. And the first time I pitched, I didn't get it. But then I went back and I pitched again. And the second time they loved my idea and they invited me to audition. And then the rest is history. Almost 2 years to the day of that conversation with my husband, I was standing on the red dot, delivering the biggest, most impactful and nerve-wracking talk of my life. And the thing that really made a difference between me staying on that couch and being the person that watched people do TEDx talks versus being the person that was standing on the red dot delivering a TEDx talk, the biggest shift was my mindset and my perspective. Nothing else was different. I didn't go back and get more educated. I didn't do a whole ton of reading to gain more insight that I could share and be more inspiring. All of that stayed the same. The difference was my mindset and the action that I took as a result. And I'm sharing this story with you because I think for many of the amazing professionals that I get to work with and that I get to speak to, running on autopilot when it comes to the thoughts and beliefs that they have without them even realizing it. The default thinking, it almost runs in the same way that software code runs in the background of your computer. It does what it does and it has a set of rules and it follows those rules. And as a result, you get the outcome, which is the programs that you use, the way that your interface is on your computer or whichever app you're accessing. When it comes to the rules that you have in your brain that are operating on autopilot, sometimes they are there unintentionally. Sometimes you haven't actually thought about them, but they are creating such an impact in the way that you show up and the way that you move forward. So if you have this script that's running in the background, this code that's running in the background that says you should really stay in your lane, or don't get ahead of yourself, or wait until you're ready, now's not the time, or someone else will notice your hard work and reach out to you, or you're too old to make any kind of move, or if you shift, you'll sacrifice financial security. um, it is really important that you recognize that there are these thoughts and these beliefs that are running in the background, because if not, you might find yourself putting in a whole load of work and a whole load of energy into figuring out a strategy for making the type of move that you want to make. But that strategy isn't necessarily going to work if the mindset isn't there to support the move. Studies show that people's beliefs are the things that really influence how they respond to challenges, learnings, and opportunities. And what I see is most of the time people lead with the strategy. So when people come to me to work with me or to get my support and my help, they might say, what should I do to advance in my career? How do I get promoted, or how do I get more visible, or how do I pivot into a new space? How do I launch my own side hustle? How do I? And whilst I am happy to answer those questions, the truth is, if your mindset isn't ready, the strategy won't help you. If your mindset isn't ready, the strategy won't help you, because your mind will not allow you to take the action that's going contrary to the beliefs that you really hold to be true. Your mind is not going to allow you to take the action that is contrary to the beliefs that you really hold to be true. So what that means is, instead of focusing on the action and the strategy, we need to back things up and we need to focus time and focus energy on the mindset. One of the models that I find really useful when I am considering how this all works and how your thoughts interplay with actions and results is this model that comes from cognitive psychology. And it says that your beliefs influence the thoughts that you have, and the thoughts that you have influence the feelings that you have. And the feelings that you have influence the action that you take. And the action that you take influences the results that you get. So let me run that back. Beliefs influence your thoughts, and your thoughts influence your feelings, and your feelings influence your actions, and your actions dictate your results. Okay? So if that is the case, instead of focusing on action which is, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to learn? What do I need to go and study? What action do I need to take? Instead of focusing there and having this whole list of to-dos that you know you need to do and you have been knowing that you need to do, but for whatever reason you're not doing, instead of focusing there, let's back it up to the thought level or the belief level. Because the reality is, if you pay attention to how things have been for you over maybe the last few months or the last few years since you decided that the path that you're on isn't quite working for you, what what action have you been meaning to take that you haven't actually taken? What action have you been meaning to take that you haven't actually taken? And if I was to ask you, why haven't you taken action? You may start with all of the reasons why it hasn't been possible. So time and work and family and health and all of the different things. And sometimes that may be true. Sometimes it may be true that things have come up that have prevented you from taking the action. But oftentimes those things are an excuse. Oftentimes, those things are an excuse or a form of procrastination because you don't want to take the action. And sometimes you might not realize why you don't want to take the action because this is not happening on a conscious level. This is your subconscious thoughts that you have had over time and the beliefs that are entrenched based on your environment, how you've grown up, how you've experienced things, and the response that you've had. So it's not your fault. And it's so normal for everybody to kind of procrastinate on the action. But if you find yourself procrastinating for a long time, it means that there's probably something more that needs to be addressed beneath the surface. And so what we need to do is start with the beliefs and thoughts around the action that you're trying to take. So let's use my TEDx example. If the thought that I was holding on to was, it's not going to be possible for someone like me to do a TEDx talk because I don't have enough expertise or I don't have enough of an inspirational story to share. If I held that belief to be true, the likelihood of me going to pitch my idea and going to audition is slim, right? Because I'm just saying, well, no one's going to want to hear what I have to say. So therefore, what's the point? And as much as I'm saying I want to do a TEDx talk, if I haven't addressed that belief and that thought, I'm not going to take the action. And so in that moment when my husband was asking me, why couldn't you? I actually explored that and recognized that I did have thoughts that weren't validated around not being good enough or not having enough to share. And when he asked me those questions, I went through and was like, actually, I've done this, I've done that, I've done that. I do have an interesting story. I have done a lot in my career so far. I have got a different perspective that people may not have thought about. And so, yes, I can share. But I had to go through that process of looking at the thought and challenging the thought before I got to the place where I was able to say, yes, this is something that I can do, I want to do, and let's go. And so I want you to do the same thing for yourself. So whatever the thought is that is linked to what you're trying to do that you find yourself procrastinating around, then we want to start there. Let me give you another example that can often come up. People will say, I can't move into this other industry because I don't have experience. I don't have experience, so therefore I'm not going to be able to move into that other industry. So the question that you want to ask yourself then is it true that I don't have experience? And then what that requires you to really think about is, what am I saying? What is my definition of experience? Because often what we can be doing, especially when we're thinking about making a shift or a pivot, is say that I don't have experience in that space, in that industry. But what we're not doing is really paying attention to what skill set is required in that new industry. And what experience do I have of exercising that skill set? So yes, I might not have experience of operating in that industry, but I do have experience of doing the tasks that are required in that industry. I do have experience of getting the types of results that are going to be impactful in that industry. So once you start breaking it down and recognizing that, yes, there is an element of that that's true, but the whole statement isn't true. I do have experience that's relevant. I just need to know how to package it and how to position it. And once you move from a place of I don't have experience to I have a range of experience that is applicable, it's going to shift the way that you feel about potentially making that transition. You're going to feel more optimistic. You're going to feel more optimistic. You're going to feel like it's something that's possible for you. And then because you feel differently, you're then going to act differently. And you might say, okay, I'm going to start having some conversations with people that are in that new industry. I'm going to start putting the feelers out and trying to understand, are there other people that have made a similar transition to what I want to make? And then the action gets taken and the result that you're going to experience is different. The result is going to be that you're going to have some data, you're going to have some insight, you're going to understand more what the transition is going to require of you. Whereas if you held on to the thought that I don't have enough experience, you wouldn't take the action to get any of the results. You'll just stay where you are or just discount that as an option completely. So I want you to really think about the thoughts. And that feels a bit crazy, right? It's like, how can I think about my thoughts? But you can track, what am I thinking? What's coming up for me that's making me feel like I can't take the action that I want to take? What are those beliefs? What are those thoughts that are limiting me from moving forward? Because ultimately, if you're not taking action, you are not giving yourself the best chance of attracting the type of opportunities that might be a really good fit for you or that you might want to explore. Those limiting default thoughts that you have or those default beliefs that you have are costing you opportunities in the long run because they are stopping you from actually moving forward towards the path that might be the desired path for you. So my encouragement today is that you take the time to identify the thoughts, and then you are challenging those thoughts and saying, is this true? Is there elements of this that are true? Are there elements of this that aren't true? And when you challenge the thought, you can replace it. You can say, well, what's another way that I could think about this? What's another way that I could view this? And when you do that, you're going to feel differently about the situation. You're going to act differently. And then the results that you experience are going to be different. Your career isn't just shaped by the skills or the experience that you have. It's shaped by the beliefs that you're operating with on a day-to-day basis. So when you change the way that you think about what's possible for you, you start behaving differently. And then that behavior will create new opportunities for you. Take the time to pay attention to your thoughts, rewrite the ones that are not serving you, and watch how you're going to be able to make so much more progress. Hey, ambitious woman, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds to follow the show and share it with someone who may be quietly rethinking their next chapter? Also, please leave a review. It really helps this message reach more ambitious women ready for career clarity. And it lights me up to know that this podcast is helpful to you. Until next time, go and take one strategic step forward, and I'll meet you back here in a few days for another episode. Let's keep building.